Auditions for Takeover promo video, take one.
Hey everybody, I'm Thaddeus. I'm one of the breakaway directors here at Kensington.
Yeah, some people call me Caffeine Carl, but my real friends, they call me Monster, because I'm a rock star. Bang!
In case you didn't know, Breakaway is our awesome ministry program designed specifically for middle school students.
Breakaway? Won't I break a leg? I can clock one of these things over 100 miles an hour.
I'm here to tell you about our annual all-night event called Takeover. Takeover starts Friday night, March 6th, and it doesn't stop until the next morning.
Don't need to wake up if you never go to sleep.
We start the night with an awesome service with over 500 middle school students all together. Then we head off to our great destinations. This year, we're going back to Dave & Buster's and the Legacy Center.
We're gonna spray paint flames on the buses.
At Dave & Buster's, we have access to unlimited video games, and to refuel from all the fun, we have a taco bar.
You guys have any Baja Blast?
At the Legacy Center, we have a trampoline park, go-karts, arcade, virtual reality, bowling, basically anything you could ever want to have. Online registration is now open.
I just registered in less than 8 seconds. Booyah!
Hey, this has been awesome. Thanks for this opportunity. Just out of curiosity, who else auditioned?
Some guy named Caffeine Carl or something?
Oh, no, not Caffeine Carl. Risk management specifically said he's not supposed to be involved in this. He's not even supposed to be at Takeover.
Oh, you know Caffeine Carl's coming to take over, and so are you. Where's my dirt bag?
All right, well, good morning, guys. Yeah, so that video, Takeover is an awesome event. I know when I was in middle school, it was like one of my favorite things because when else do you get to stay up all night and run around the city with your friend and your youth pastor? It's seriously such a great event for our middle schoolers. So you guys can sign up for that online, or maybe if you have some questions, you can head on out to our table next to the great room and talk to our student ministries team. They would love to answer any questions that you guys may have. So you have joined us for the last week of our series, Mosaic. And a mosaic is a beautiful piece of art made up of tiny pieces of glass or stone. And we believe that there are a variety of different families, and they're made up of different, unique people, and we believe that families can be beautiful too. And so throughout this series, we've just been learning how to be more intentional and how to really care in those relationships. So my name is Faith, and I am our Kaleo Kids intern here at Kensington this year, and we actually just opened up our application for our 2021 internship year. And I just want to talk about this program for a second. It's seriously one of the best things I've chosen to do. It's such a well-rounded program. It is a 10-month developmental program where you get to work hands-on in ministry, you get to grow spiritually, personally, emotionally, really any way you could think. There are people ready to help you grow and develop in that area. I'm about halfway through it right now, and for me, one of the best things, I've just found a whole new community of people. It's like I have 25 new best friends. But seriously, guys, this is such an awesome opportunity. So if you guys have questions, we do have a table out in the lobby. There'll be a couple of us standing there if you guys have questions. Or to begin the application process, you can go to kensingtonchurch.org/intern. Well, I know Valentine's Day may have passed, but we have another opportunity for you guys. We have our date night. So this is a chance for you and your significant other to, maybe it's get away from the kids for a night, but just come alongside other couples, and there'll be fun, music, food, of course, but we also have a message prepared for you guys to just be intentional and equip you for being in your relationship. So come on out and join us for our date night. And lastly, I just want to remind you guys that this coming Wednesday, we have our midweek service here at our CT campus. As you guys know, it's always an awesome message. There's extra worship. So we would love to see you 7 o'clock right here. And the last thing is if you have any questions about anything I've said or you want more information, you can head on out to the hub in the center of the lobby. And if it is your first time here today, we would love to meet you, and we do have a special gift for you. So with that, I would love it if you guys could all stand up, say hi to the people around you, and go ahead and crunch in towards the middle.
Early rush of morning, trying to get the kids to school. One's hanging on my shirt tail, the other's locked up in a room. I'm yelling up the stairs, stop and worrying about your hair, you look fine. Then they're fighting in the back seat, and I'm playing referee. Someone's gotta go the moment that we leave. Now everybody's late, I swear I can't wait till they grow up. Then they do, that's how it is. It's just quiet in the morning, can't believe how much you miss all they do and all they did. You want all the dreams they dream of to come true, and they do. Now the youngest is starting college, she'll be leaving in the fall. Brianna's latest boyfriend called and asked if we could talk. Now I got the impression he's about to pop the question any day. I look over at their pictures sitting in the frames. I see them as babies, guessing that'll never change. You pray all their lives, someday they'll find happiness. Then they do, that's how it is. It's just quiet in the morning, can't believe how much you miss all they do. They need. You want all the dreams they dream of to come true, and they do. No more Monday PTA, no carpools or soccer game. Your work is done. Got time, that's all you own. You've been waiting for so long, those days to come. Then they do, it's how it is. It's just quiet in the morning, can't believe how much you miss all they do. Dreams they dream of to come true, then they do. Then they do.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, bro. Wow. If you're a certain age, that song kind of hits you hard, doesn't it? Hello? Yeah, you look back on your life and you just kind of like, wow, holy smokes. It's like smoke, wasn't it? Like it just, the hard times that were really, really, really hard, the good times, and the challenges, and there's a richness there, and it happens, it goes fast. And I will say this, there is free time, and the kids are gone, and sometimes the house is quiet, and we've been blessed with the grandkids coming. And now we have grandkids at our house 2 or 3, 4 days a week, and it's so funny. My wife's never been an ache and pain person. She literally heads for the bed like this, because but again, this window is going to go like a blink. Like my first grader, Marguerite, my oldest granddaughter, I picked her up at school this week, and she came running towards me, literally 50 yards across the school grounds, and I thought, okay, what year does that stop? You know, when is she not going to run in joy to see me? I'm hoping it's maybe when she's 36. But I got a feel it's going to come sooner than that, don't you? But I think it's so interesting when we think about our families and our life, and we're in this series, this mosaic series, which we've talking about relationships, where you just define a mosaic as a collection of seemingly unrelated and diverse pieces that when assembled in a particular manner are able to create something beautiful. That's what Kensington is. That's what our life is. That's what Clinton Township is. Zarba and I were just standing in the lobby and talking. We're thinking about the future. We've been meeting pretty much every week at breakfast. And one of the things that we've always loved about our lives is that the two of us come from utterly, completely different backgrounds. And every one of you has a different story, right? God's writing a story in your family and in your place. And today, we wanted to talk about maybe what is the most challenging mosaic that's out there in human relationships. And it's called the blended family. The blended family is something that in our day and in our culture is everywhere. Many of you, it might even be possible that a majority of you are living in a connection with a blended family. And today, we wanted to encourage you. We wanted to paint a beautiful picture of this image where one or both spouses bring children with them from previous marriages or relationships. That's the most extreme vision of a blended family and the most challenging. And here's what I loved about it. As we were planning this service, we were all working on, we're like, oh my goodness, this is the church. This is Kensington. This is what God called Dave Wilson and Mark Nelson and I 33 years ago when we first met, started dreaming about this. This was what God told us to dream about. And not always, but often when I think of Kensington, I think of the image of what we are. I'd say, people say, well, what's Kensington really like? It's like an island of misfit toys. It is. And like God has thrown all these people together. I'm the only perfect person that I've met at Kensington. Because it's just this, God brought together this crazy group of people. I can remember the years when we were thinking about starting the church and people go, oh, but you'll never pull that off. They'd be like, pointing me like, you're going to do this? I'm like, well, actually, I'm hoping God's going to do it. Because I know I can't do it. And so as we think about that, I wanted to give you a couple of images of the church. One is this image of the church as an adopted family. Now that's a blended family. That's odd, right? That's not when you think the first thing, but some of us were adopted here. I have adopted grandchildren now, which has totally changed my life and my perspective. But look at what God says through the Apostle Paul in Galatians. But when the right time came, God sent his son, Jesus, born of a woman, subject to the law, and God sent him to buy freedom for us who were slaves to the law so that he could adopt us as his very own children. Now, how great is that? God says, I came to find you. And because we're his children, God sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, prompting us to call out, Abba, Father. So now you're no longer a slave, but you're God's own child. And since you're his child, God has made you his heir. Think about that. Everything that God has, he's made and made available to you and me. Like we are the richest people in the universe because God has taken us into his family. Here's what I want you to know. In every world religion, when people talk about God, they talk about God, they talk about the Almighty, they talk about the all-powerful. But for people that have believed in Jesus Christ, you know what Jesus invites us to do? He invites us to call his Father, God who sent Jesus into the world, to call him Abba. It's unique in the world. It's unique in all world religions that you actually, when you pray, if you were to pray with the first word, Daddy, that's legit. You're not trying to measure up or perform. God has come to find you and to find me, and then he's brought us together. And not only that, but the church is a diverse family. I don't have time to teach on Galatians 3, but God has brought people from every ethnic background, every socioeconomic background, every gender background. God brings people together. But as we talk about blended family today, I just got a very short video I wanted you to see before I talk about what God kind of gives to us in the context of our families. But I want you to see the complexity and challenge that the blended family is real. Take a look at this.
Our story begins when this guy met this girl and fell madly in love. First came love, then came marriage. Then came Emily, Michael, and John in a baby carriage. They were living the dream until doubt and isolation tore love apart. One love and one home became two. In another part of the world, a loving marriage welcomed two beautiful children. Life and love for this couple went along as they hoped, and they too were living the dream. Until Mom became ill. Bad became worse, and worse ended the dream. Courageously, Dad strove to pick up the pieces and help his grieving children carry on. And together, they did. Until one day when this lady met this fellow. Wait, where have I heard that before? Oh well. One thing led to another, and a new dream for a new home was born. Yes, they knew there would be challenges merging homes, extended families, parenting strategies, finances, loss experiences, and holiday traditions, but they were confident that love would see them through. With hearts full of hope, they married. In the meantime, this guy, remember him? Announced that he and his girlfriend were getting married. They too had a dream for a new home. Okay, let's recap, shall we? What started out as 2 simple homes with 4 parents and 5 kids became 3 homes with 3 parents and 5 kids. And then became 2 homes with 2 parents, 2 step-parents, 5 children, 5 stepchildren, and the living memory of a deceased mother. And 5 sets of grandparents, dozens of cousins, uncles, and aunts, colliding family traditions, kids with divided loyalties, a home with 5 children on some days and only 2 the next, 2 bedtimes, differing parenting styles, conflict between homes, debt from the past, questions about whether this marriage will last, and 4 adults who quickly realize that their simple dream to recreate their dream home has instead created a multi-household family that is not simple at all, but complex. Love and hope has brought these families together, but how do they manage the complexity? And how do they make the dream reality?
Okay, take a deep breath, everybody. So every person in blended family out there, how true is that? Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's not just blended families, but every family. I mean, I grew up in Tennessee. I married a girl from Wisconsin. You talk about trying to blend 2 cultures. Do you realize how weird people are from Wisconsin? But I want to say, if you're in a blended family today, you're my hero. You're doing something that is one of the most challenging things in the world. And what's interesting is the way Jesus lived. In a sense, Jesus' family was exceedingly odd and blended along the way. When you read the Gospels and read the people who followed him, and the fact that almost every person Jesus connected with was an unlikely person. And so Jesus understands this dilemma of families, and especially blended families. And so the question is, what helps the dream become real, even in blended families? And here's what I want to say. I want to just give you a couple of simple things that I think Jesus gives us in the craziness of our lives. And when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to blended families, I'm thinking about my own life, which our life was full of rebellious kids who couldn't wait to get out of the house. And now grandkids and sons-in-law and extended family and all kinds of in-laws. Life is very complex for all of us. But here's what I want you to know that Jesus gives. You ready? Number one, Jesus gives us, our families, patience. There's a truth that the power of the Holy Spirit, that the gift of the Holy Spirit, when Jesus comes into our lives, that God the Father knew that we were going to need a ton of patience. In fact, what do people say? What do they say to grandparents? Said, being a grandparent is a reward for not killing your children. Come on, I think that's funnier than, maybe that's inappropriate, I don't know. But think of all the years of patience and then the rewards that come. Ephesians 4 says this, always be humble and gentle, be patient with each other, and this is what I love, because this is what every relationship needs, every community, every organization, every family, making allowances for each other's faults because of your love. Doesn't mean you ignore the faults, but we engage each other and speak truth and love to each other, but we make allowance. And I think there's this place where patience can change the world. It really can. Paula always said to me, she said, we read news about the world. She said, if the rulers of the world, when they would come to meet together to discuss conflict, if every one of them were just required to hold a sleeping baby while they negotiated, the world would be a different place. It would, wouldn't it? Because there's this sense of patience and beauty and tenderness that God brings, and this is what the Holy Spirit brings into our lives. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he was just saying, gosh, I can't believe how tender I've become as I've gotten older. I'm like, that's good, because sometimes you get older, you get crabbier and grumpier. I was talking to a friend of mine, said that his grandkids I'm known as Gimpy, and I said, well, their grandfather's known as Grumpy. He says it was real. I don't want to be known as Grumpy. Patricia Papernow, who wrote the book Becoming a Step Family, in her research discovered that it takes the average blended family 7 years to integrate sufficiently to experience intimacy and authenticity in their relationships. 7 years is a long time. I've actually read studies that says when you marry someone, it takes 7 years to be married. I think that's true. It took me 13 because I'm a fast learner. She writes, fast families can accomplish this in 4 years if the children are young and the adults are intentional about bringing their family together. But I'm like, doesn't happen often. However, slow families can take 9 or more years. In my experience, Patricia Papernow says, very few adults come into their step family believing it will take this long. They think it will be a quick and painless blending process. Not true. In the Smart family, Ron Deal, who we're hoping, Ron was on Dave and Ann's nationwide radio program. He says the best method for blended families, in his book, The Smart Step Family, some of you might want to get, is the crock pot cooking method. Because crock pots work on 2 factors. What are they? Say them out loud. Low heat. Let's say that again. Low heat. Man, we don't need, in a step family, we don't need high heat. That is just going to break us apart. We don't need that in our regular families. It's this idea that in the crock pot of our family's life, we take all the ingredients and throw them into the pot, which is called the wedding day. We have some potatoes, carrots, celery, onions. We throw them all in, and that's the way a blended family begins. We think, oh, this is going to be great. But some are really connected, like a biological parent and their children. Others are on opposite sides. But in a crock pot, do you stir everything? Do you? No, you give it time. Now, what's the problem with the crock pot now is people aren't going to stop using the crock pot. Now they're going to start using the Instapot. But the Instapot doesn't work for families. It doesn't work for regular families, and it doesn't work for blended families. No, the great thing about crock pots is you give it time. You let it cook for 6 or 7 hours, and sometimes even longer, and then something is great. But in the crock pot, you know those darn carrots. What do the carrots do? They take longer. Every blended family, every family has carrots. Sometimes you feel like everybody's a carrot, and it drives you nuts. But in this, the image is one of patience. And in that patience, with low heat, one of the things is to create places of safety where you can. It's a big deal. I love this. I love that of how people are always finding creative ways. And if you're in a blended family or a regular family, I want you to ask yourself a question. How are we as a family creating safe places for other people, for our extended family? How are we creating low heat as opposed to rising heat? What hills are we dying on that aren't even worth fighting over? Because we're always, it's amazing what destroys families. Arguments over things that really don't matter. But it's only because we decided we were going to force the hand and raise the heat and not be patient. Okay, so this is what God does give our families patience. But he also gives his family perseverance. He gives us perseverance. Look at Galatians 6:9. He says, boy, let's read this one together. This is important. Let's read this one together. Let us not become weary in doing good. Come on, read it like you mean it. For at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. I'm telling you, that's real. It's real for every family. I remember that my daughter, Lindy, my oldest daughter, when she was about 9 years old, separated from me emotionally. She didn't want me to hug her, whatever. And it lasted until her junior year in high school. And there were days when I'd walk through the house, I had 3 daughters and a son, and man, I just loved her. She was so much like me too. That's probably part of it. And I'll tell you, there were years I would walk through the room and I would just touch her on the shoulder. Say, hey, afternoon. Just touch her on the shoulder, walk away. That's all I could do. That's not ideal, is it? Answer loud. No, it's not. But if that's all you can do to express love to your daughter who's separated herself emotionally for the time being, then that's what you do. You lower the heat. You create safety. Paula and I had 5 years where we did not think our marriage would survive. If you've been divorced, I totally understand that. God, in his grace, allowed us to make it somehow in this 5-year window. And a lot of it was because of Paul's determination not to give up on me and my stupidity. But here's what I want you to know. Perseverance pays off. Ron Deal, in his book, says there's a step-family promised land of marital intimacy, interpersonal connectedness, and spiritual redemption. He says, God has not abandoned you. If you will listen, trust, and continue walking by faith, you'll hear him confirming your journey, offering guidance and healing, and providing a way forward. But you must trust him. Don't be like most remarried couples who end their journey in divorce within the first 3 years. Don't quit before crossing the sea of opposition or finding the rewards on the other side. God beckons you, remain persistent, and see your family through to the promised land. There's a reward to be gained, but you must hold God's hand and walk through. I'm telling you, that encouragement is for every one of us in this room, everyone listening on the stream. God is saying, don't give up. And I love that. I love it when people in my life keep persisting, keep growing, keep learning, keep stretching, keep living in relationship with other people. This is a powerful thing. And for those of you, as I think about perseverance, man, if we could just make allowances for each other, if we could just bear each other's burdens a little bit, not grow weary in doing good, man, something great can happen with our lives. So, Got one more point, but I got one of our Kensington Clinton Township superstars to share this point with me. Tracy Hinkle is going to come out in just a minute. I want to receive the offering at this time, if the ushers are ready to do that. And I want to say this. Perseverance affects everything we do. The reason Kensington exists is because people gutted it out and gave sacrificially. People have served. The willingness of the people of this campus to go the distance is incredible. And when you give, it's a part of that journey along the way. I love that. In fact, starting next week, we have a new series called The Blessed Life, where we're really talking about what does it look to live a life that when your life is over, you look back and people go, that life was truly blessed. That's what we're going to start next week, that series. So, Tracy Hinkle, where are you? Come out here, girl. Give Tracy a big hand, will you? I know you love her. You are, now, just because she's vertically challenged, this is a powerful woman. And you and your husband are an amazing team. When I think of all across Kensington and what God is doing through you guys, it's unbelievable. Don't you agree?
Thank
it's
you,
amazing.
Steve. Thank
and
you.
so, as we just talked about it, the blended family, the challenge. You found yourself in a blended family. Wasn't your plan, but this is how God led you. We talked about patience and perseverance.
Right.
You can reflect on that, but also talking about how God has brought great people into your life. Right. I think you're one of those people for me.
Thank you.
So just talk to us about this blended family thing.
Well, God does give us people, and that's a really important part, the patience and the perseverance, but sometimes we need a little help to do that.
Or a lot.
Or a lot of help,
Yeah.
right. And I think this verse in Galatians 6:2, if we look at that one, it really spells that out for us. I'll bring that up.
Yeah, the Galatians 6:2. Carry each other's burdens.
Right. It's talking about carrying each other's burdens. And what is so important about that? It gives that image, that feeling of like we are not alone. God doesn't want us to be alone. It gives that image of we're carrying something really heavy. Mm-hmm. And just when we're about to give up and drop that burden, somebody in a timely manner comes along and helps us out.
Oh, man.
And I think that's what's so important.
Okay, just stop it. Just for 1 second. None of us would be here without those people in our lives.
Right,
I
holding
have
us
all
up.
these faces flashing through my mind.
Right.
Yeah.
And for us as blended families, Steve mentioned 7 years to blend a family. And Jim and I are married 7 years this year. And 7 years ago, I remember saying, it's not going to take 7 years. Steve talked about the crock pot, but what we were was the blender. And we just thought, well, we love each other, and we'll just throw them all together, and they'll figure it out. And I bet many of you can relate to that. But we went to a workshop called Blended Family Workshop, and we watched this message about the crock pot versus the blender, and it was so enlightening. And what I discovered is we didn't know what we didn't know. Unfortunately, I grew up in a blended family. Now I find myself in a blended family, getting ready to repeat exactly what I was shown growing up, and that just doesn't necessarily work. So in these workshops, we learn strategy and the complexity. You saw the little video on it about why the kids are the way they are and why we might emotionally respond the way that we do, and we get some help. And we interact with people who are modeling to us how they went through it. And that's so important, is to have somebody model it to us. And like you said, Steve, is a blended family, is it God's design for family? Everything in this world is not God's design. And I think there was a time and place where I felt shame about it and embarrassment.
I remember thinking I was going to create the perfect family because I'm the perfect person.
Right.
Right, and then you just look back over the years and you see, oh my gosh, all the flaws, all the mistakes I made. No, I didn't think I would do all that, but that's the reality.
Right.
But I've seen God use that. So sorry, just
right,
just
definitely.
think of that.
In every family, but also especially blended families. And I think there's shame and there's regret, and that's really where the enemy wants to keep us looking backwards. But the solutions are forward, where Jesus Christ is at, and that's what we learn through these workshops, is how to apply it. And that God wants to redeem these families, and they are just important to Him as any other family. We don't have to say we're not traditional, or we're not traditional, or we're not broken. We're blended. It's two families coming together, and it does take time and patience and perseverance. One of the things that helps is to interact with other people who have done it and who have gotten it right and figured it out. I don't know if we ever always get it right, but we make progress in that. Right. And something that really helped me was going through that workshop. And we have a video right now that there's a couple that they really lived out exactly what you taught and what we learned in that little video. And I think that really says it all. So this is the Rushings and the Jacobsons. Yeah. So check out this video.
Great. Okay.
I was leading divorce recovery at the time, and Renee came into the program.
We really ended up becoming friends when we ended up in a Bible study shortly after that together.
I noticed her, and then we got to know each other in the group, how you do the introductions. And she says, I have 4 children. And I said, well, I have 4 children, so there was no way I was ever gonna date this gal. So it just kicked off a friendship.
So that was for about a year that we ended up just kind of hanging out in a group, and then we were spending a lot of time together one-on-one. And I think it was me that finally said, are we dating?
We were always just over at their house or doing stuff together, activities together, and I didn't understand. And I was just like, what? There's a little more to this than...
Yeah, they're hanging out a lot. Something's up here.
And I was a little older at the time when they started hanging out, and so I think maybe I could tell what was happening a little faster than everyone else. And I'm like, my dad has a crush on this lady. I can tell because he'd get all nervous when he was around her.
Well, we've always told Dad every time we went out, you're gonna go get us a new stepmama. So we were ready for him to meet someone, and we really liked Renee when we first met her.
I don't remember getting any pushback from any of them. The pushback didn't come until we announced the engagement. That's when things kind of changed.
It's like, why is this happening? It's like, I gotta move again. I'm like, now we're gonna go into a new house.
Felt like we didn't have a choice in it. We were just thrown in it. And it was just kind of like, hey, this is happening, deal with it.
But again, we have to remember that our kids are a year or 2 behind where we are. We had fallen in love. We were good. It was our kids that had to get used to that idea and kind of realize that they were becoming a family too.
Me and him and our other little brother, Joey, who moved in with us, we were all just like not for it and just kind of like, we didn't like them. We didn't like Mike. We didn't want to deal with it. We didn't want to switch schools. You know, at the same time, also, I love my mom and I trust my mom. So I knew she's not going to bring me to a house where I'm going to be miserable at all the time.
I think I expected it to be a little bit easier just because they were already friends and they all got along so well. I wasn't expecting the challenges that really hit us.
I wasn't used to having a woman in the house as like a mother figure because I had a single dad for so long. So having this woman come in and put all her toiletries in my bathroom and move all my stuff around and kind of felt like things were happening without my permission or without my consideration. So at the beginning, like, it was really hard.
The biggest conflict I saw was that my dad parented very differently than Renee parented. But Renee is so soft and so gentle and so nurturing and caring, and that's how she raised her boys. And I know Renee would like wake up everyone for school in the morning, and the way she would wake up everyone for school is she would go and she'd be like, hey, bud, time to wake up. You're so beautiful and you're so smart and you're pretty and everyone's great and let's go start the day. And my dad, the way we woke up every morning was he would have pots and pans and he would just go through the house with pots and pans as loud as he could. And so I think the boys hated my dad for that for a while. It was just like, you're not nice.
Even though I was happy for my mom, at the same time, I was just like, this dude's not my dad. I'm not, I don't want him to try to be my dad, and it felt like he was. It just made everyone upset and just everyone on edge.
It was probably three years into our marriage, and I told Mike, I said, I'm going to move out. When the kids graduate, we'll do this again. I can't do this anymore, and it's ripping him apart from his kids, me from mine.
I came upstairs, she had a laptop open, and she was looking for places to live in. My heart sank, and I said, I gotta lead. Christ calls me to lead my home. I gotta lead now. And Right? I didn't know what to do. I just rolled over and just began to pray, saying, Lord, give us some answers. I didn't get those answers. I prayed for her. I prayed for us. She got those answers at our women's Bible study.
Just something came over me, going, this is the wrong decision. This isn't what God wants for us. This isn't what he intended. And came home and said that I can't do this to our kids. We're trying to build this home. We're trying to show them stability. We're trying to show them a Christian family, marriage, and something that they can hopefully mimic later in life and not end up in this situation as a blended family to begin with.
It wasn't, but except through Blended Family Workshop, that I was able to open my eyes to some of the things that I needed to really focus on. And I prayed that God would give me some wisdom, and he delivered an individual in that group. Daryl Kress was a gentleman who came into my life and said, I think you might want to try this. You might need to throw your son out. The relationship between he and Renee was, it was crescendoing to probably get into probably violent.
You don't ever want to put your spouse in a position that they have to choose between you or their child.
I had to be the man in my home, and I am going to protect my wife. I told her that's what I was going to do. When we got married, never thought I'd have to protect my wife from our internal family. Daryl was he led me all the way through this, and I'm very, very thankful for his wisdom and guidance. There were some apologies that were made. He found Christ. He came home. I got a chance to baptize him, and the relationship that he has now with her is only because of God.
When we all got into high school, I think that's when it started to, like, blend, and we started to get along.
Started to get fun.
And we also started to gang up on our parents.
We get stories now as they get older about things that they used to do together to behind our backs, and, you know, how they were kind of like little gang members.
I think we got to know each other way better, and we got to know each other's personalities and everyone's quirks. I think it just takes time. It's not something that happens in the snap of a finger.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, 2-3 years of living together before we really felt like this is our family.
I also feel like that was the time where we started to call each other like, oh, this is my brother, this is my sister, instead of this is my stepbrother, this is my stepsister. My advice for parents that are blending would just be persistent and be patient, because the kids will come around. It'll work out, and if you set the example and you put God first in your life, it's gonna work out. They put God at the center of their relationship, and it's so evident in our family today.
Lower your expectations, because I think you go in thinking that you're gonna have this perfect family, and things are just gonna work out great because you're in love, and that's what's gonna happen.
If I knew how close we'd all be now, it would have been so much easier back then.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Not only do I have a better relationship with my family, but my stepfather has pushed me to have a better relationship with God.
You're gonna wanna quit. It's a normal reaction. You're gonna wanna go back to what you know, what was comfortable. I'll tell you to push through those are hurdles. Get as much help as you can. But God has been faithful. He's taught me so much. He's brought people into my life when I needed the wisdom, and I'm very, very thankful.
You know, God can make a family out of all of this, then he can make a family out of anybody, because we came from completely different personalities and backgrounds and different struggles and different messes, but yet it now 10 years later, you're looking at it and it like blends perfectly.
It's
an amazing story.
I hope that you all hear the hope in that. There can't be one person in this audience that doesn't know a blended family, whether you have a family member. And it's so confusing because even as outsiders, you just want to say, just figure it out. What's the big deal? My family told my daughter who struggled, don't you want your mom to be happy? But she had to work through her own feelings. Like you heard some of those, that the kids were probably surprising. Toiletries were in the way and that set her off, you know? There are just things that you don't, all the emotions attached to them. But the hope was that they invited Christ into the middle of this family. And I think what happens is we're talking about blended families today so you can understand how complex they are. And once you understand them, you can respond differently. And if you're in one, you know how to invite God into it now. Not just say, oh, Lord, help me with this mess. But help me with this particular relationship. Help me with this particular situation. And guide us through it and put people in our lives to be able to get through it so that you don't give up. And then they're talking about legacy. I know that every blended family in here, or people you know, they don't want their children to have to go through this. So we have an opportunity to model for our kids and break that tie, that generational tie of divorce and remarriage, and change the future and change the legacy of our grandchildren. It's so inspiring to know that there's hope out there.
It sure is. I was thinking of how a good buddy of mine was unfaithful to his wife a few years ago. And he goes, so this is what I'm going to be remembered for the rest of my life. And I said, no. You're going to be remembered for seeking forgiveness and for humbling yourself and for coming back and seeking the forgiveness of your kids and of trusting God. And you're going to be remembered for humbly coming back to Jesus Christ and rebuilding the torn walls of your life. And I think there's this incredible power with this story that wow, it's so moving, because the dad was willing to ask his son to leave the house in order to honor his wife. And boy, you don't think there wasn't incredible heat and the difficulty in making that decision? And here's the other thing, is that what I've learned in the church and what I've learned through you and Zarb and the whole team, Wilson, now everybody I've worked, is that God is going to use our brokenness more than he's going to use anything else. Because we all want to bring our talents and our strengths, and all the beautiful, just look at this. Just bring this to the equation. But God takes the broken parts, and that's what he uses for his kingdom. Because I think when we talk about mosaic, it's broken pieces.
Right.
It's not little carefully cut pieces. It's broken pieces that somehow come together to paint amazing pictures along the way. So just encourage people one more time. Again, what are the steps need to be taken?
We've got some great next steps here, and I'm passionate about them because Jim and I have gone through them ourselves, and we're leading them now. So we have a blended family workshop coming up that's going to start in March. And then we have a blended family all-day video cast May 2nd at the Troy campus.
Wow.
If a lot of you respond and you want some help, we're going to add another blended family workshop here. We'll just see. We want you to go out to the hub and just fill out a card if you want information at all. Just if you want to be informed, because we don't know who's blended and who's not, and who's grandparents and aunts and uncles. You are all in this together. This understanding of it can change everything, because it is about the carrots. It's about the kids. She mentioned in the video that they're two years behind. You're all in love and you want to get married, or you've gotten married, and they're just throwing wrenches. They're just not cooking. But understanding it will help
wrenches
you know.
don't cook real well in the crock pot.
That's right. Well, I don't like to cook, so maybe I just don't have that right. Just ask Jim. He's the cook. So we just want to encourage you. And in your own families, if you're not in a blended family, it is often a struggle to remember it's God, spouse, children. And when we forget that, everything is out of order and everything falls apart. And that's really hard to do in a blended family. I find myself often God, Jim kids, Jim kids, Jim kids. But he's got to be first so that we can change the way that we parent our families. We want to help you learn how to do that.
I would say, when I look back at that original video today, biggest challenge, not just in blended families, but in all of our lives, is isolation. When things go bad, there's something in the brokenness of our lives that makes us want to isolate. Instead, what God wants us to do is seek community and to be in a relationship. And even when we're trying to forgive each other, we kind of want to half forgive, but we want to keep our distance or that isolation. It doesn't work. As we thought it would be a really cool way to end this day by singing together, but also by celebrating the Lord's Supper. Jesus offering the bread and the cup as a sign of his commitment of love to us. But here's what hit me as we were preparing this service. Think about this. Jesus says, the band can come out. We're ready for you guys to come out and just be a part of this. But this is what Jesus did that was incredible to me. It's my favorite communion verse where Jesus says to his disciples, he says, I have eagerly desired to eat this meal with you. Like I have been looking forward to sharing this moment with you. Does anybody know where the rest of the sentence goes? I have eagerly desired to have this meal with you before I suffer. So he's not setting up a meal for this perfect situation. He's setting up a meal, and all hell's getting ready to break loose as soon as this meal is over. And his family is these 12 guys, because his own family has rejected him. By the way, you mentioned maybe Jesus grew up in a blended family, stepdad, the whole thing. But Jesus looks at these guys, and he's getting ready to have this meal. And what does he know? He knows that every guy is going to betray him. Literally, that within hours of taking the bread and the cup together, that all 12 of these guys, one's going to betray him, one's going to deny him, and the rest are going to run for their lives. And yet, what does he do? He says, I've so much wanted to have this meal with you. So as this bread and cup are coming by, I want you to hear Jesus' voice to you. You man, you woman, whoever you are, Jesus longs for you. The grief in your family, Jesus weeps over it with you. He died on the cross to bring us back into relationship. And here were these 12 guys that were going to isolate. And I love the legacy thing. Because is it the disciples' legacy that they ran when Jesus was arrested? That they ran, they lied, they cheated, they hid? Is that their legacy? Somebody answer me out loud. No. Their legacy is that they trusted and they followed and they persevered. And they all ended up, except for John, who was horribly tortured. The rest of them were executed for their faith. That was their legacy. And I want you to know, as Tracy and I are talking to you today and seeing you, we see you in that way. I honestly don't care about your failures. I don't care about mine. I mean, yes, they're there and they're real and they hurt and they sting. But I care about the fact that Jesus is building something new in us along the way. You with me on that?
Sure am.
Okay.
Every step.
Great. So we're going to sing and worship. As you hold the bread and the cup, just think about the incredible love and the legacy that Jesus is building and wants to build in you and in me. No matter what, no matter how many failures, he came for us knowing we'd be flawed. He loved us anyway.
In the crushing, in the pressing, you are making new wine. In the soil I now surrender, you are breaking new ground. So I yield to you and to your careful hand. When I trust you, I don't need to understand. So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring me wine, how me. pressing, you are making new wine. In the soil I now surrender, you are breaking new ground. You are breaking new ground. So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. Oh, I came here with nothing, but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power, there is new freedom, and the kingdom is here. I lay down my old place to carry your new fire today. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power, there is new freedom, and the kingdom is here. I lay down my old place to carry your new fire today. So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. Oh, I came here with nothing, but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. Oh, I came here with nothing, but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power, there is new freedom, and the kingdom is here. I lay down my old place to carry your new fire today. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power, there is new freedom, and the kingdom is here. I lay down my old place to carry your new fire today. So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. Oh, I came here with nothing, but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me.
think of Jesus inviting me all those years ago, and then re-inviting me every day, every hour. Every time I've wandered, every time I've doubted, every time I've been rebellious, made terrible choices, every step, he's just kept inviting me along the way. So here we are again today, at the end of the service, and Jesus is inviting us to know his love. Like for you to know that you could be the most messed up person in this room. Doesn't matter. He's inviting you to come to him and to feel his love and his care. And I was holding this today. I thought about how I love my grandchildren. And I spent a whole day with one of my grandsons about 2 weeks ago. And at the end of the day, I was taking him back to the car, and he didn't want to go. And he turned and kicked me in the shin as hard as he could. Now, can you imagine me looking at him going, oh, all right, that's it for you. No more ice cream. No more, no more fun. It's like, dude, kick all you want, but I'm going to try to get my shin out of the way. But isn't it going to change how I love you? God is looking at you. A lot of us in this room have kicked him in the shins, haven't we? But he's saying, I loved you. I want to share this meal. I died and rose again from the dead that you and I could have life. And I'm with you every step of the way, no matter where that road leads. Let's take it together. Lord, thank you that you invite us into relationship. That even in this series we talk about, you invited us, you adopted us into your family. And you love us, and you're giving us the strength and the presence of your Holy Spirit to begin to love differently. And Lord, you're there in the impossible situations that we literally can't see a way forward. Even there, you're with us and loving us. And so help brothers and sisters and families today get help and take steps, get connected, step out of isolation, that they would know your love, that they are loved. They know your love as real as it is. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Sing it again. Come on.
You
Good job. Awesome. You know, we are the island of misfit toys. We are. And I was just back there singing, thinking how God in all these years has allowed us to experience so many unbelievable things everywhere in the world. 2 weeks ago, I was worshiping with a brand new church under a thorn tree in the middle of nowhere in West Pocot. I thought it's the same believers, the same Jesus, the same movement, the same love, the same sacrifice on the cross. Jesus done that all for us. We are not alone. We are in this together. So, last word to you.
Yeah, I just love that it said, I am not embarrassed and I'm not ashamed. That's the Lord speaking to us. Whatever you're in, whether you're in your family of Island of Misfit Toys or your blended family, like we need to come together. Jesus is the answer, but how do we do it? And we want to help you do that. Just go out to the hub. We got a table there. You can ask questions about blended family, how to find the workshop, how to find the video cast, how to get help. That's the biggest part, is just to know that you don't have to live with it like it is, and Jesus will make all the difference. And then we want to invite you to come back next week for our new series called A Blessed Life.
Yeah, it's great. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be so fun teaching with you today,
thanks.
Steve.
Awesome. Love you. Thanks. Thanks, you guys. Okay. Head out. Let's get it done.